I'm wrestling with these two juxtaposed ideas of who, not how versus do it yourself, who, not how versus DIY. And they're both coming from people that I respect. So I'd love to just sort of explore how these might serve us and you as a listener uh, in your own way. But that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. We are your hosts, Erik Orton.
And I'm Emily Orton.
And here we talk about personal growth and sailing. In 2014, we moved aboard a fixer-upper sailboat and bootstrapped a year sailing with our 5 kids, and it changed our lives forever.
We tell the whole story in our memoir, our book, 7 at Sea. On this podcast, we want to help you go from fear to freedom, one adventure at a time.
Okay, so a little bit of context here. I'm reading a book. You've heard me talk about Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And I read 10X is Easier Than 2X recently, and I'm reading now Who, Not How. Dan Sullivan, if you've never heard of him, is regarded as the top entrepreneurial, can I say that right? Coach for entrepreneurs.
There you go.
He's the top coach for entrepreneurs. And Benjamin Hardy is his co-author on a handful of books. And so I've been reading about who, not how, do it yourself, DIY. I'm guessing you're just going to know what that is. That's pretty common knowledge. But who, not how might take a little bit of extra explanation. Who, not how is flipping the switch on how we typically think about solving problems. We might say, I need to repair my lawnmower. Let me go look up a YouTube on how to do that. Who, not how would be, my lawnmower's not working. Who could I take it to get that done? 2 very different approaches. The ultimate goal is the same, to get your lawnmower repaired, but one is thinking, how can I do this myself versus who can I find that is expert at this that can do it for me? Probably better, probably quicker, but definitely more expensive. And I think the main differentiator is, do you have the money to pay somebody else to do it, or do you need to not have the money and so you're going to spend the time to figure it out yourself? And so who, not how is the sort of a high-end entrepreneurial thought of finding the right people that can help provide the solution. And sometimes it is hiring somebody to do it. And sometimes it's just somebody who can advise you or guide you or teach you. And then do it yourself. DIY is obviously just being scrappy and, finding, resources, whether it's YouTube tutorials or other, figuring it out, just trial and error, whatever it takes. But that's the DIY part of it.
I do love some trial and error.
Well, as we say in the Orton home, trial and error works every time. Okay. So Emily, maybe you can help me think about this, because I've been going all in on this who, not how. And then I'm listening to this interview, so this is basically entrepreneur coach Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And then I've been listening to this interview with Nick D, who, if you listen to any recent episodes, he is a 32-year-old hip hop artist that my kids are fans of. And I got to go to a concert, a show that they did here in Salt Lake City. It was Nick D. It was Connor Price's show, actually. He was the headliner. And Nick D, who's one of his good friends and collaborators, was there along with Graham. We'll tag all you guys in the show notes because, we're just trying to get, traffic.
They just keep coming up. We're not, they just keep coming up. They're inspiring us. I love that.
So,
one of the things I love about you, Erik, is that you're willing to be inspired by people who are doing things, whether they're younger than you, more experienced than you, less experienced than you, older than you.
These guys are cool.
Doing stuff.
They're all cool. Graham's less than half my age, and Connor Price and Nick D are, pretty close to half my age. But they're cool guys. They're fantastic husbands, good fathers, and
making stuff happen.
And they're making stuff happen. And I'm learning a lot from them. I just think they're great. So, but they're very scrappy, bootstrappy, DIY guys. So, okay.
Independent
musicians. No, they're not on a label, which is kind of cool. So, all right. and this is a little bit of a stream of consciousness podcast, because I don't have this all worked out. The reason I'm trying to reconcile these two ideas in my own brain, and Emily's going to help be my sounding board and help me figure it out. That's one of Emily's great gifts, is helping me. She just listens to me think and says, well, what about this? What about that? And eventually we kind of like, oh, now I know what I think better. So this is going to be one of those kind of conversations. So I have always related, personally, I've identified as a DIY guy. I grew up in a house where my dad figured things out, and he raised me and taught me to figure things out for myself.
And your mom too.
And my mom too.
She's a figure outer.
Yeah, both of them. And so I grew up in a house. My parents bought this fixer-upper house in Northern Virginia, the suburbs of DC, and I grew up learning how to build a deck, learning how to build a fence, figuring out how to pour a new concrete slab, how to, chop and stack firewood. And, my dad, the garage was just full of tools, power tools and just non-power tools, I guess. Like, anyway, but, like my dad he's the kind of guy that would go buy the manual on how to repair the car. And we literally, when I was between 8th and 9th grade, the summer between 8th and 9th grade, my dad wanted to replace the engine in our Dodge van. And so I hung out with him. I was sort of his assistant, and painstakingly through those, car manuals, they show you how to disassemble your car or do any repair, and just walked it through. And I was there to hand my dad tools and felt like I was really a part of it, but probably was more in the way than helpful. But I watched my dad remove and install an engine, like an entire engine in the car. And then we proceeded to drive that car for many, many more years. And
I was the last person to drive that
car. Yeah.
And I think we were expecting our second child.
Yeah. So it went
it broke down.
So that just means we did a really good job repairing it, especially my dad. And my dad designed the kitchen extension. He did all the plumbing and wiring and cabinetry work. And mind you, my dad he works as a defense contractor doing work, like reconnaissance work for the Air Force. It's not like he's a carpenter or he's not like a general contractor or a handyman. He's just a guy who figures things out. Mm-hmm. And that is the home that I grew up in. And so that runs very strong with me. You don't calling somebody to figure it out and do it for you is a sign of failure or laziness.
They never said that, but that's definitely the message you received.
Maybe that's just how I took it. Yeah. So, okay. So that's the DIY culture that I've come from. And then I'm coming into this entrepreneurial space where it's about, hey, let people shine in their zone of genius. Let people's natural gifts, kind of let people do what they do best, and let them do it for you to everyone's benefit. And that the point, it's actually detrimental to try and figure everything out, because you're slowing yourself down, trying to spend your time and energy on things that are not your natural gifts. You're not your natural proclivities.
You're spread thin, so you can't progress in the areas where you're strong.
Yeah. And in the meantime, you're trying to do all the things and not doing the areas where you are most able to contribute. And so you're also not giving people the opportunity, people who have those gifts and those skills, you're not giving them the opportunities to do them in a beneficial way for other people. And so it's a lose-lose. So, and anyway, so that's sort of this dichotomy. Mm-hmm. And I'm wrestling with it because I have appreciation and respect for both points of view. And Dan Sullivan, he has a program called Strategic Coach, which I'm not a part of, but maybe one day we will. And he's talking about how we can broaden our horizons. In a previous episode, we were talking about how we can expand the size of our dreams. Mm-hmm. And he says, hey, if you're not involving other people and leveraging their skills and abilities and talents and gifts, you may be living small, because if your dreams are only big enough that you do everything, you're not you're not dreaming big enough. That you could have a dream that's big enough that it will require the gifts and talents and contributions of other people to make it happen. Otherwise, it may not be big enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we've actually talked about this, Emily, you and I and our family. We said that our dream of living on a sailboat was one that was big enough
for the whole
family.
Mm-hmm.
That if it had just been, I want to go live on a sailboat, that would have been not nearly as cool.
Yeah, if you had gone by yourself to live on a sailboat for about a year and left the family behind, like all kinds of things would have gone sideways.
but just that it was a dream that was big enough for everybody to have a place and a way to contribute and a way to have a role to play, and to benefit, and so maybe that's an example of choosing a bigger dream that involves other people. And I think, regardless of what you think of all this, like, SpaceX and going to Mars and all that, that is not a one-man show. That absolutely requires many, many people. And there's all kinds of endeavors, whether it's businesses or educational institutions, certainly families. Families, require more than one people by definition, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, that it can be multifaceted, but just that it's one of those things where the idea that I'm wrestling with is that if it doesn't require other people, maybe we need more vision. So anyway, yeah. I've been doing a lot of talking here. I should probably just pause and let you be the wise woman that you are.
Well, I have some thoughts about what you're saying, and it sounds like you're originally kind of saying, well, when do you do who, not how, and when do you DIY? And there might be some different factors in that. And I think it depends, first of all, on what your goal is. So a lot of times I hear about how much more time I'll have to spend with my kids or free up my attention and my energy if I will just sign up for a meal plan service, where they send you the ingredients or they send you the meals and you don't, do the grocery shopping or any of those things. And it's, well, what is my goal? Because for me personally, one of the goals I have is crossing paths with my kids and being side by side in those like casual, easy situations where they can just tell me what's going on in their life. And I'm not on this agenda driven on to the next kind of thing. And so, I get it that it could be that the way you want to spend your time does not include purchasing, preparing, and cleaning up after the meals, you're physically required to consume to keep going. But for me, I see such a high value in that time for two reasons. One is when I want to connect with the kids and we're helping each other. And another is that it's kind of a meditative transitional space for me. It's a break for me. I can put in one of my favorite podcasts, and
which is probably ours, right?
I'm just always listening to us. And so that time, to me, that time is not wasted. It's not low value time. It's high value time for me, either in building relationships or in sort of filling myself up, getting ready for the next thing. So I actually enjoy spending the time doing that. And if I had a different goal, then it would be a no-brainer that, of course, I pre-ordered groceries or somebody else making these meals. And a lot of people do that, and that's the best thing for them. So just to start off with, I think it really depends on what your goal is. For example, your dad had you handing him tools while you rebuilt that engine. And part of what was happening was repeat exposure and connection with your dad in this circumstance. He was with you and you were with him, and you were making something better together. And a lot was being transmitted. He also could have said, I'm going to take this to a shop and it's going to, get done. And maybe we'll spend our time together in a different way. Another time when I really think you want to leverage the DIY approach is if you are really crafty, like you just enjoy the process of doing it. And another time might be if your resources are low, if you don't have money, but you have more time, then it would be obvious, like, okay, the best approach is going to be that we're going to do this ourselves. I'm not saying that's always going to be the case just because you have a low resource, but it's a high consideration to DIY it when you don't have a lot of resources.
When out of necessity, you just have to bootstrap it. So I guess 2 examples. Recently, the harmonic balancer fell off of the engine in our Ford Explorer. And for those of you who don't know what a harmonic balancer is,
He just made that up.
I did not.
He meant the flux capacitor.
Oh yeah, sorry. The flux capacitor fell off
No,
of our.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So it's a disc that sits on the front end of the engine, and all the belts that go around that turn the alternator and everything. It kind of helps it stay in place and helps the engine not.
It's like a hub.
Vibrate back and forth. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it literally just fell off, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, I look in the hood, and I was like, oh, this is a pretty obvious repair. Like, this thing needs to be remounted. And I kind of gave it one go, and I was like, this is involved. This is really involved. And so we took it to the shop, and I was just worried that something catastrophic had happened to the car.
We're gonna have to call your dad out to rebuild our engine.
Anyway, I was like, this is not going to go well if I try and fix it, because I don't have the time or the skill to do this properly.
Yeah, I don't have to learn the skill.
And if I do, it'll take it along, and I'll probably won't get it right. So we hired our beloved local mechanic.
Love him.
Who took care of it for us. And it was great. And it was done in 48 hours, and our car it's running great. So problem solved. On the flip side, our kitchen faucet has been leaking for a year.
Months.
Can we say a year?
I don't know if it's been that long.
But it started like a year ago, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And, this house that we bought, it came with for some reason, very high-end sort of industrial kitchen faucet. And the water here in Utah is all kinds of minerals and this, like, all kinds of stuff calcified. And I was like, if I can just figure out how to open this up and replace the cartridge inside, it's a very easy fix. It's a $15 part, and this is like a $350 faucet. And I was like, and I'm not just, anyway, I worked on that thing so long, so many times. Like,
you threatened to call a plumber.
I did threaten to call a plumber. And anyway, I actually I figured it out. I talked through with customer support, and I got it opened up, and then I said, I do need the cartridge, and they sent it to me, and it was the wrong part. It was like, we're working with what do you call it when they don't make it anymore? Discontinued. Yeah, a discontinued faucet. So I was like, hey, anyway, they finally sold me at a deep, deep discount. Thank you, Kraus faucet suppliers. They sold me at like a 70% discount on this faucet, and I installed it, and I'm very proud of myself.
And everyone in the family was so happy.
Everyone is so happy. And so that was an example of DIY, and it felt good. It felt right. Just as it felt good to have somebody else fix our car and not have me screw it up.
So how did you decide between DIYing or just calling an expert?
I think it had to do with my skill set. And I also knew that if I called a plumber, it was going to cost me a lot more than it would be to do it myself. And I didn't think it would take that long. So it was a balance of time and money, and also danger. Like, I knew that if I fixed our car wrong, that could be dangerous. If I fixed our sink faucet wrong, like, we might have a leaking, like, worst case, like a little bit of a flooding problem, but not like danger.
Yeah. And also the car, we couldn't drive it until it got fixed.
That's true.
So it was a little urgent. Whereas the faucet's like, yeah, it leaks, but we could just mop it up every day. Okay,
this is making me remember a triangle that my boss, when I used to manage Broadway shows, he's a smart guy. He went to Harvard Business School, and he had an MBA and all that stuff. And anyway, he had this triangle that it was like fast, cheap. It's like fast, cheap, good. That was it. That was the triangle. You could have 2 of the 3, but you couldn't have all 3. So you had to kind of pick which side of the triangle you were going to go to. I could have it fast and cheap, or good and cheap but not fast, or fast and good but not cheap. And so maybe that's it. That you have to decide which of those 2 of the 3 are the highest priority. And so, anyway, I kind of
let's go back to the who not how
I want
example,
to go back
because
there.
these are like very basic examples of just that you've given, but who really matters. And I had a friend, we spent like 11 months of COVID in San Diego, and I met a wonderful woman there who was talking me through some of the challenges I was having and goals I was setting. And she said, maybe it's not how to get it done. Maybe it's who. Maybe you need to be talking to different people, or you haven't met the right person. And I just started thinking about that. And I thought she was definitely one of my who's, and she gave me good guidance. And she was just like a really good example of in her confidence and her energy and just her discipline. And I thought she's definitely a who for me, even though it wasn't like I hired her to do anything. And it was
who doesn't always have to cost money. I should clarify that.
It was a friendship, but she gave me excellent guidance and kind of put me in a good direction. And so also in San Diego, I was doing a lot more public speaking. And I think I've talked about this before, but anyway, I don't know anything about makeup. I'm a duffel bag girl. And so I thought, who can help me with this? I didn't get on YouTube and look up tutorials. I didn't check out books. I didn't go to Sephora. I was like, who can help me with this? And there was a woman who was one of my neighbors who used to do that professionally. And I asked her, would you be willing to teach me about this? And she became the one who taught me. She taught me one look in one morning.
She taught you the gorgeous look.
It was like the bride look or something. And I was like, okay, now I know what to do. I can at least do that. And it helped me to be able to take care of myself, show up on stage with confidence. And now every time I do a speaking gig or a presentation, or like even getting our daughter ready for prom, I did that same look, for her makeup. And I'll just send her a message and say, you taught me this, you gave me this confidence. I'm using it over and over again. And that every time I do it, I think of that relationship. And it was this who that came into my life that was the most important part of it.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think they can be partners, people that we undertake something with together, and you just combine knowledge or resources or expertise. But it can also be a guide, like you're talking about with this woman. And in a lot of ways, we are a who for people that want to they want to try living on a sailboat. And they can DIY it. They can go get all kinds of certifications to learn how to sail. They can figure out how to charter a boat. They can get a group together and wrangle people, which is no small matter. They can figure out the provisioning and the meal planning. And then once you're on the boat, where you're going to go and what you're going to do. And you can, and we did that.
Yeah.
I mean, we did that, and it was a steep learning curve. And yet, I'm not trying to pitch us here, but like, we'll do
pitch
that
later.
We'll pitch. Yeah. Just stay tuned with you. That's where we do the pitch. So, but we do that for people, and we help them get it quicker. They get it fast, and they get it good. It's not cheap, but they get it fast and they get it good. We did it good and cheap, but it wasn't fast.
So slow. And we didn't have a lot of people to really show us how it's done. When you go on that experience, you're like, oh, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is what it sounds like. This is how it works. Now I know this much. I could next time take on that part,
And I'll say we did, once we got on the boat, we did find people who helped us and coached us. And they were just pure friends and good souls that encouraged us and taught us. So in a way, we did find who's, but we did a lot of heavy lifting before that. And so I guess I'm just saying this because I'm realizing as we're talking the power and the value of coaches, because coaches can help us accelerate and get to a high level of quality so much faster. And that's why every Olympian has a coach. That's why most CEOs have coaches. That's why political leaders, whether it's a speaking coach or
many coaches.
Many coaches. And so,
Well, I think of this for our son. That's been a big thing going on at our house recently. He joined a gym, and he was trying to join whichever gym would be the cheapest because all he wanted was free weights. But then when he got there, they talked to him about the benefits of having a personal trainer and having a coaching package. And at first I was a little anxious because I knew what was important to him was saving money. After we talked about it a little more, I realized he really does have some fitness goals, some things that he wants to change, some things that he's working toward. And he's been working alone consistently for 3 years. And alone, he's doing fine. He's not where he wants to be. And so when he's now going to be able to pair his discipline and desire with somebody else's expertise, and they're also going to pair him with a nutritionist, we're at the beginning of that journey. But even after the first training session, he came home so happy and he felt so much relief because he wasn't bearing the whole responsibility himself. He didn't have to go read fitness books or watch videos or whatever. He's like, someone has like taken my data and knows my goals, and they're going to help me do it. They're going to make the program, and all I have to do is show up and go through the motions. Yeah, I just have to follow it, and he will do that. Like, he is disciplined. He loves that direct input. But I said, you're going to get so much out of this because they're actually going to help you move forward and progress instead of just maintain, which for 3 years, in the first couple of months, he had some progress, and then he's been basically
plateaued,
maintaining, trying to do it alone.
Can I read what I read to him? Because
great.
We actually talked with him, and he felt a little
segue.
bad because he felt like we were second guessing his decision to buy this thing. And I was like, hey, no. We're not trying to talk you down. We just want to make sure that you're not getting,
be sure you're getting
talked into something that you don't want.
Yeah.
And he said, I am getting what I want. And I said, okay, I'm going to read you and I had literally read this the night before. And this is from Who Not How. This is page 40 if you're curious. It says, for example, if you want to improve your health, you can simply get a gym membership, which is what Eli wanted to do. Or you could hire a personal trainer. Yes, this would be an investment, one you may not think you have the capacity to make. However, by hiring a personal trainer, your capabilities and potential in your health and fitness will expand. You'll be able to produce better results because you'll get the coaching and support you need. Additionally, by being invested, you'll be more motivated and focused, not semi-committed. Again, getting whose is how you get committed. Investing in your goals is how you grow into and achieve huge goals. Yet people often don't make such investments, and as a result, never experience the increased commitment, motivation, and focus that comes with it. And Alex Hormozy, who's somebody else that we admire and learn from, he says, the people who pay attention.
Oh, and that's so true. And we've seen that with our clients as well. Like, if you could pay for a pill or a supplement that would give you increased motivation, that would improve your discipline to your habits, that would increase your level of commitment and focus on the things that you say matter. Like, would you take that? Would you pay for that? Yes, but that is not what exists. What exists are coaches with accountability and repetition and encouragement and helping you see what the next steps are, and that you can leverage that. It's like taking their homework and letting them help you move at that kind of superhuman level where, you know what, you lost focus on Wednesday, but on Thursday you met with your coach, and on Friday you were focused, and on Saturday you were focused, and on Sunday you were like, what am I doing? And on Monday you remembered, I have a coach session on Wednesday. And you kind of like, what am I doing towards this? I made some commitments, and they're going to now hold me accountable, and they're going to give me some bigger ideas and expand my horizons and stretch my goals. And you just move faster, and things happen that you thought were impossible. And we've hired coaches and had that experience, and we've had the honor of coaching others and had that experience. We really don't promote that program. You can hunt for it and find it if you want on our website. But if, it does make a difference. If you want to be committed to something, get yourself accountable and pay, so that you pay something, whatever you're trading, whether it's your money or something else that's of value to you that you're giving up in exchange. That will show how serious you are about this goal.
Yeah. So I think, just to bring it back, there's a dichotomy between who, not how, finding a person, whether it's a partner that you do things with that may or may not involve money, or hiring people to do things that can help accelerate us. And then there is the DIY approach. And for me, the takeaway from this conversation is the triangle that used to hang on my boss's office: cheap, fast, good. If you don't have money, or you don't like to spend money, you can get there. You can DIY it. It will take you longer, and it can still be cheap, and it can be good, but it'll take you longer. If you want to find somebody that you can team up with in some way, whether it's as a coach or an employee, hiring them to be an employee, or, collaborating with them, and they can help move you along quicker, you can get good and fast, but it won't be cheap. And so anyway, that's just the trade-off. And I think once we know where we are in that triangle and what our priorities are, then we can make decisions about whether we need to DIY this, whether we need to who, not how this, and then on our way. There's no wrong way, but those are the trade-offs.
I think that's the takeaway, that there isn't a wrong way, but you should, if you've only been a DIY person, you may want to consider some who.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're opening up to, and we're seeing growth and acceleration, and also joy, because it comes with being able to create those new relationships and friendships and people that we care about and who care about us.
Yeah, I agree. Well, hopefully this has been helpful to you, our friends listening. And as you explore this in your own life, don't forget to ask, what could go right? Hey there, this is Eric. Just want to let you know what the latest is on sailing. First of all, people are having a blast on these trips, and we're actually kind of overwhelmed with the response, but we're having fun, so we're going to keep going. All right, so we do have some limited space for trips this fall and winter. All of our summer trips are full up, but in fall, winter 2024, we have room on a trip to Italy in September, Mexico in October, Thailand in November, and Bahamas in December. So there are limited spaces for those trips coming up. However, we also are booking into 2025. So in the winter months, we're going to be going to warm places like the Bahamas and the Caribbean. And then once we get more into summer, we're going to be in Europe. So Croatia, Greece, Italy, and hopefully we're going to do a week in Mallorca, Spain. So that's the lineup. And if you're interested in any of that, go to theawesomefactory.nyc/sailing 2024. This will also be in the show notes. You can also email us at hello@theawesomefactory.nyc. So go to the show notes. The link is theawesomefactory.nyc/sailing 2024, even though we're talking about trips into the future in 2025. You can also email us at hello@theawesomefactory.nyc. Would love to welcome you aboard.